is a motion in case of sexual harassment and shooting of a 17-year-old SS1 female student by a soldier deployed on internal security duty, standing in the names of Honorable I.D. Gyang and Honorable Edward Pajok. Honorable Gyang is now invited to move the motion.
Remain I.D. Gyang, member representing Barikin Ladi Federal Constituency of Plateau State. I rise to move the motion on a case of sexual harassment and shooting of a 17-year-old SS1 female student by a soldier deployed on internal security duty. I so move, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Honorable ID, you have not taken the motion. You have to read the entire motion before call for the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, like you have just observed that I'm wearing dark colors, Mr. Speaker, it's because I have tears in my heart, and I rise with these tears in my heart to say, Mr. Speaker, that Plateau State is bleeding. Mr. Speaker, Plateau State is bleeding from mass attacks and mass killings as I read the motion. And so these mass attacks have become a daily occurrence. Mr. Speaker, today the national and international media was awash with the recent. The House notes that the military is massively engaged in internal security operations across the nation as part of the commitment of government to live up to its foremost constitutional responsibility of ensuring the well-being, safety, and security of citizens. Also notes that in the process of undertaking this onerous task, the military has been contending with cases of human rights abuses, some of which have attracted attention and condemnation of Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. The House observes that while the military high command has repeatedly assured citizens of its commitment to the observance of human rights as amply embedded in the rules of engagement, there are behaviors and actions of some operatives within the rank and file that are negating this noble objective. Inform honorable colleagues that on 19th October 2017, indigents of Sop village in Riom local government area of Plateau State embarked on a protest against soldiers manning the checkpoint in the community who had earlier caused the death of 2 boys. Also informed, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, that in the course of the protest, one of the soldiers shot a 17-year-old SS1 female student of government secondary school Sop by name Simi Danladi for allegedly refusing his lustful advances. Aware, dear honorable colleagues, that apart from Simi Danladi, 2 other people, namely Danjuma Kaze and his son Irimiya, were also shot and are currently receiving treatment at the Plateau Specialist Hospital, Jos. Concerned that some military personnel whom the nation has entrusted with the responsibility of protecting lives and property of citizens are turning around to constitute a threat to the people, as in the instant case. From the foregoing, the House therefore resolves to mandate the Committees on Human Rights, Defense and Army to investigate the matter and report back in 3 weeks for further legislative action. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I so move. I have captured in this very submission We are witnessing a situation in Plateau State, Mr. Speaker, that is very, very critical in terms of the welfare, well-being, and security and safety of citizens. As I started saying, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, Plateau State is bleeding. It is bleeding from mass attacks and mass killings. Mass burials have become a daily occurrence. Mr. Speaker, today, the national and international media was awash with reports of 11 youths, very vibrant young men, that were ambushed while returning home from market. And the 11 young men that were killed are further to what happened last week in Bassa local government of Plateau State, where over 27 persons were killed in a classroom, where the military had advised them to go for safety. While in that classroom, supposedly to be protected, they became victims of a mass slaughter. And that is the situation in Plateau State, and we are bringing this motion, particularly in the instant case, where there was a protest in sub-village, and the villagers were protesting because two boys were compelled by the personnel that were at the checkpoint to check a well for them, and the boys went in and died. And they were compelling another set of boys to go into the same well. As a result of that, there was a protest by the community. This girl that is now in hospital was among the victims, and when I visited her in hospital, she narrated her case that the soldier that shot her had persistently been asking her, harassing her sexually. But because of her resistance, he told her verbally that she will see. And during that protest, he went and shot this lady. He was to shoot her again. It took the intervention of another sympathetic soldier to prevent this other person from killing her. The lady is available, and the investigation will reach her so that we get more information from her concerning the conduct of this very personnel. And Mr. Speaker, the military high command has been doing its best to ensure that it lives up to its reputation as the Nigerian army that has respect for human rights. But there are some within the rank and file that are negating these very noble objectives of the military high command. And this motion is intended to ensure that action is taken so that the reputation of the Nigerian army will now not go down the drain as a result of the activities and actions of a few bad elements within the army and the military generally. And Mr. Speaker, because of this situation, the situation in Plateau State is now very critical. It is a very, very critical situation that this House needs to intervene as the House of the Nigerian people. And that is why we have raised this motion, and I will yield the floor to my brother, Edward Pojok, to further make comments, Mr. Speaker, on this very submission. Thank you, honorable colleagues, as you support this motion, that this matter be thoroughly investigated so that we put an end to the human rights abuse by some elements within the army and the military generally, so that we preserve the reputation of the Nigerian military. Thank you, honorable colleagues.